What happens when a relationship ends and the breakup turns into an all-out battle? Well, today we're going to deconstruct a story that starts with a sudden end to an engagement, but it quickly spirals into this messy conflict over money, family, and accusations of harassment. It all leads to a really complicated question. Where exactly is the line between a bad breakup and something way more serious? So this is the question at the heart of it all, coming directly from the source material. You've got a 28-year-old guy, completely blindsided that his engagement is over, who then gets caught up in a situation so intense, he's left wondering if his ex-fiancée's actions have actually crossed a very serious line. All right, so let's set the scene. How did this all kick off? Well, the relationship just ends, suddenly. And at first, he has no idea why. It's only later that he finds out she'd been cheating on him. But honestly, the shock of the breakup? That's just the beginning of this story. So right after it all goes down, his brother steps in with a game plan. And the first, most important piece of advice is this. Secure the money you've personally saved in your joint wedding account. And this one single action, well, it becomes the spark that ignites everything that follows.
And yeah, this is where things really heat up. What started as just a practical step to, separate their lives, it quickly turns into this huge fight over their shared wedding fund. Okay, so let's actually break down who put what into this account, because it's pretty important. On his side, he'd been saving for over a year, putting in up to $600 a month, and he even threw his Christmas bonus in there. Her contribution, a couple of $1,000s. So you can see right away, this imbalance becomes a really key detail. Now, this part is absolutely crucial. He didn't just go in and empty the account. No, he was meticulous about it. He calculated exactly what he put in, down to the dollar, and transferred only that amount out, leaving her money completely untouched. He even had the bank records to prove it. And her reaction? It was immediate, and it was intense. Even though he had done the math so carefully, she started calling him a thief. This wasn't just a simple disagreement. It was a direct accusation, and she would not let it go. So you've got these two totally different stories, right? Her argument was that he flat out stole from her and that he should have just left his savings in there to cover his part of the rent. His proof, though, was simple. It was evidence. He had screenshots of the bank transfers, and he made a really smart move. He decided to only talk to her through text messages, which created a clear, written record of everything. From this point on, the fight over money just explodes. It morphs from a simple argument into this wider, much more personal campaign of pressure and, frankly, harassment. And it wasn't just directed at him anymore, it was aimed at his family. First, her dad gets involved. He actually calls our guy, telling him to do the right thing, which in his mind meant just handing over all the money he'd saved because, and I'm quoting here, it was for her anyways. The pressure was definitely being turned up. And this timeline just shows how fast things spun out of control. After he says no to her dad's demand, she starts calling his mother. Night after night. The calls would start around 9 p.m. and sometimes go all the way until 1 in the morning. It got so bad that his sister finally had enough and filed a police report for harassment. 36. Let that sink in for a second. That's how many times his ex-fiancée called his mother in a single night. Now, on his brother's advice, they didn't block the number. They just put the phone on silent, which created this undeniable record of just how relentless the calls were. That number, 36, it became a key piece of evidence. And here's the context that just makes this the whole thing so much worse. His mother wasn't just being annoyed. She was a vulnerable target. She was already dealing with health issues after the recent death of her husband, his father. So these nonstop calls were causing her real, genuine distress. And that's why his sister stepped in so hard to protect her. So faced with this escalating harassment, he starts looking for a legal way to get out of their shared apartment. At this point, he's not just trying to protect his money, he's trying to get his life back and just create some physical space between them. He finds the specific legal tool called an N-15 form. And what it is, basically, is a document designed to help someone break their lease if they've been a victim of domestic violence or abuse. He sees this as his ticket out, hoping that the police report his sister filed will be enough proof. But then he hits a wall, a huge one. When he talks to a police officer about the whole situation, the officer is pretty skeptical. He tells him that he probably wouldn't classify this whole campaign of calls and accusations as domestic abuse, which cast a ton of doubt on whether that N-15 form would ever get approved. And that brings us right back to the central question. After all of this, he's stuck. He's at this intersection of a truly awful breakup and a series of actions that feel abusive, but they just don't seem to fit the official legal definition. It really makes you wonder, where exactly is the line? So let's just recap the actions that led him to ask that question. You've got false accusations of theft, even with evidence to the contrary. You have pressure from her family to just give up his life savings. And then the big one, a relentless multi-day campaign of harassing calls targeting his grieving and unwell mother, a campaign so severe that the police had to get involved. You know, in the end, all of these actions had a really profound effect on him. He says that her behavior after they broke up showed him exactly who she was, and that he didn't think he could fall out of love with someone so quickly. The person he was planning to marry was just gone, replaced by the person behind this harassment campaign. So we're left with this fundamental question. When a conflict goes from arguments over money to a targeted campaign of psychological pressure on someone's vulnerable family member, does it cross that line? Does it go from just a painful breakup into abuse? This whole story really highlights that gray area where personal pain and legal definitions don't always see eye to eye.